Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. On the 3rd of December, it's 9:41 in the morning, 57 degrees. Okay, looks like it'll be clear. High is 67. I got up this morning, it was 47 or 48 degrees. That's really cold for us. All right, I'm not going to do anything except make sure that the chat's got sound and picture. It's really cold for us. All right, that's it. Being a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, so what we're going to cover today is what is really going on in Syria instead of listening to all this junk. Remember, I live next door to Syria. Okay, when we would be bombing Syria, I'd hear the bombs, and I not only would hear it, I'd feel it. Okay, what you're reading about and what you're hearing about is most likely rather far from what's really happening in the last 2 days or so, and I will enlighten you. Okay, and we're going to talk about Trump telling Hamas if they don't release the hostages before his inauguration, he used the words, there'll be all hell to pay. And we're going to discuss that, and that is a rather stupid remark, and it's got a reasonably decent chance of causing more turmoil in the Middle East, if you could imagine that. It has a precious little chance of success, and I'll go through that with you. And then we're going to go through an analysis of the firmament, and I'm going to show you some things you may or may not know using the scriptures. Okay, so Bashar Assad on November 30th was in Russia with his family. He did not go to Russia to have a meeting with Vladimir Putin about what to do. He evacuated. He ran away from Syria. So what human being is now running Syria? He's got a brother that's high-ranking military. Maybe he's doing it, and maybe talking with Assad on the phone. But the Arab newspapers were talking about this. It appears to be verified that he's in Russia. He pulled out. Now, the media in general is not talking about this. The Arab media is. Let's analyze what this tells us. First of all, it tells us that he's scared to death. Oh, there's more. Wait. Bashar Assad approached Saudi Arabia, probably from Russia, and said, I'd like you to reach out to the Israelis. Tell them that I need help suppressing the rebels, and if they'll help me, I'll begin moves. These were the words he was using. It's gone from Arabic to English, so I don't know. But I will begin to remove the IRGC from Syria. Now, you don't have to go spend a year in a war college as a career officer in the military to understand what's going on. I will explain it to you and you will see it fall into place. This is going to be square pegs and square holes and round pegs and round holes. This is not going to be hard. First of all, I mean, I don't know where to start. We'll jump in. If he's saying he'll run the IRGC out of Iran, number one, Israel doesn't necessarily believe or trust him. Number two, what's Iran going to do? They've invested billions there. What are they going to say about it? Are they going to say, yeah, okay, we're sorry you don't be my guest? No, I don't think so. Is it possible that Iran suggested he do this? Well, if they did, it's just more underhanded subterfuge taking place, but I don't think they did. Um, uh, there were 8 convoys, not trucks, convoys. A convoy could easily be 100 or 200 trucks. It could be 20 or 30. 8 of them coming in to Syria from Iraq. Now, there's this is in dispute. Either they were IRGC or they were Iran-backed militias in Iraq, or both. But they were coming in to help the Bashar Assad. I heard some pretty good sources say they were IRGC. The mainstream media, the regular run-of-the-mill stuff, not the New York Times or the Washington Times, they were saying it was militia. But America bombed the convoys, and that was the end of that. I don't know how many they killed, but I imagine the convoys thought it was a good idea if they survived to go home. So help is not coming from Iraq or Iran. If the convoys were Iranian, IRGC, or other soldiers, Iranian regular military soldiers, and they got attacked by the Americans coming in, they said, whoa. If they were just the militias and they got attacked coming in, what would the Iranian response be? Whoa. If we send our soldiers, that's what'll happen to them. Now, you got to send, like thousands of soldiers. Admittedly, you could send, 3,000 guys and soldiers and, give them, 40, 50 tanks, some artillery pieces, and you could have them, protect Assad's palace in Damascus. Now, I told you the other day that the rebels were in Assad's palace, and this was true. Where I went off on this and I was led astray by some media who probably didn't know any better, and part of it was my fault for not looking deeper. But what the Arabs are saying, it was Assad's, and I think they're telling the truth, it was Assad's palace in Aleppo. Now, they could be covering it up. It could have been in Damascus. So I just want to tell you that this is in dispute. It might have been his palace in Aleppo or Damascus. The Arabs would downplay it and say Aleppo. I never heard of this idiot having a palace in Aleppo. Hey, let's take a look and see if we can find a picture. This could be, there may never be a palace. Let's take a look. Maybe there is no palace in Aleppo. We can look. It's rather important because if it is Damascus, it's way, way more important. Let's first take a look for an image to see if there's a picture of it. Well, I'm getting a lot of the Muslim pro-Assad media. Let's see. No, it was Aleppo. Okay, it wasn't Damascus. So that makes it less severe. It was Aleppo. It was Aleppo. Still his palace. All right. So Assad is, scared to death. So out of desperation, he goes to the Saudis and he makes this offer. But what that tells you is that the Iranians are not helping him. When they saw what happened with the Americans bombing the 8 convoys, they said to themselves, whoa, we can't come by ship. The Israelis will go crazy if they see us on the Mediterranean trying to get into Syria. They'll think that we're staging in Syria to attack them. They'll attack us. The Americans will attack us. This is crazy. So how can we help Syria? We can't. Iran's not risking its neck over Syria now. Help ain't coming. Russia's evacuating the troops out of Syria. They're not moving from one base to another, although they have been doing that, retreating. They're going away. They're going to either Ukraine or Russia or someplace. Maybe they'll go to Iran, I don't know, but they're going someplace out of Syria. Russia can't help them. Russia is in too much trouble with NATO and Ukraine. They just can't mess with this. Russia played a game and surfaced a submarine near the Philippines a few days ago to scare them. He can do stuff like that, but he can't really, get involved in a war over Syria. When you weigh the pluses and minuses, the minuses are really heavy and the pluses aren't. And it's too scary for him. It's going to weaken him with Ukraine. So he's on his own. Now we're reading reports of various soldiers, IRGC, I've heard, defecting to, or ran back militias defecting to the rebels. We've heard of an attempted coup against the Assad regime in Syria. What do they need a coup for? He's not there anymore. Oh, rest assured, he probably has at least $1 billion or $2 billion or something stashed in banks in different countries around the world. He could use Saudi, he could use Iran, he could use maybe China, Russia. Swiss might take him, I don't know. He's okay for money, he's not worried about that. Putin can put him up, they'll give him a reasonably nice house. I don't think he's going to get 25,000 square feet. He'd probably get 5,000, maybe 8 or 10,000. And they'll put, he'll probably assign, 40 or 50 soldiers around the place, but they probably work on shifts. So it'll be secure. It'll have fences, sensors, cameras, maybe dogs. They'll have maybe 10 or 15 soldiers at all times walking around the place. It's inside Russia, and if anybody tried to storm the fortress, they would just pick up the radio or the phone or the computer, and helicopters would come, and planes would come, and troops would come, and police would come. So it doesn't, he's not going to keep 1,000 troops there in Russia to protect the guy. He doesn't have to. He might keep 50 or 100 even, but not that much. So he's going to be rather well secure, and he could, he'll have the luxury. He'd probably have at least 4 servants. Um, he may have more. He'll sleep at night, and as long as Russia holds up. He'll sleep at night. He'll eat good. He'll have his caviar. He'll have his filet mignon, his wagyu beef, his whatever the heck the jerk eats. And he'll be there. He lost his country. Russia ain't helping, Iran ain't helping. Who the heck's gonna come? India, Bangladesh, the Philippines, Argentina. Who's gonna come help him? Nobody. He's a dictator. He displaced, with his 13-year civil war, over 6 million people. A large amount of them are in Turkey, which Turkey is not pleased with. For years, Turkey has had to maintain refugee camps for them, which means 3 times a day they go to some kind of food dispensary and they get served food, or they have a buffet, or however they do it, and they grab what they want to eat, and then they go sit down at a table, or they take the plates and carry it back to their tent, and they, eat. If they get sick, he's got to have medical. He can't just let them lay there on the floor and moan and groan until they die. He's got to give them clothing. He probably maintains mosques, and then he has to patrol it with a large amount of soldiers or border police to make sure they don't run out into the general population. They don't have very many rights. They don't have free range of the country. They might have television. They may get newspapers. It's not a pleasant thing. They're not felons in a prison, nothing like that. But it's not a great life. And Bashar, I understand he has at least 2 million. Do you know what the bill is to support 2 million people with housing? That means they need electric in their tents, right? They probably need an electric heater in the tent. They got to have communal showers and communal toilets. I mean, the food. He's churning out 6 million meals a day. Do you know how expensive that is? He's feeding and supporting what amounts to, in America, a medium-sized city. He doesn't like that. He wants them to go home to a free Syria. They don't want to go home and sit under Assad because Assad will punish them. When he's gone and his regime is gone, they'll go home. So things are not good for him in Syria. He's losing Syria. Yes, Russia bombed some rebels. Yes, Russia is got to put up some resistance. He stopped the rebels from expanding their takeovers by bombing. So in other words, they can't run a large convoy and go to another city and surround it because Putin will come and bomb them. So what Putin is doing is he's slowing them down so he can collect his troops and get the heck out of there. Him and Bashar Assad, when their troops are leaving, they're abandoning military equipment, which they have to do. And the rebel forces are taking that equipment and using it. They got some immature propeller aircraft that Bashar Assad uses for attacks. They got a helicopter or two. They got 1/3 of Bashar Assad's tanks. This idiot would likely have had at least a third. I mean, at least I'd say 1,000 tanks, 13. So they got these guys now got, I would say, probably a good 300 tanks. It could be higher. Do you understand what that means? What kind of a force that Bashar Assad? Well, I mean, it's a monumentally complicated proposition to take out. Hundreds of tanks. And they got artillery, they got a Panzer from the Russians or Assad anti-aircraft launching system, but I doubt they know how to use it. Let's take a look at how many tanks Syria did have. We can look that up. He might have had 3,000, I don't know. The figure I heard was they got 1/3 of his tanks. See, running around, running a civil war for 13 years brutally with using chemical weapons and stuff like that was a fairly idiotic, vicious, savage move on the part of this moron. All right, let's see what we can find on this. It's worse than I thought. He had 2,720 tanks. So the 1/3 figure means the rebels got 900 tanks now. Do you know what kind of a force that is now? 900 tanks. His tanks are not old pieces of crap. They're not great tanks either. I've got my coffee got some bad cream in it, guys. I gotta go make another cup. It's not drinkable. I'll be right back. Give me a break here, and we'll get into this deeper. Oh, it's gonna be instant coffee, so it's gonna go fast. One of the many fears that Iran has, and they're fearful of a lot of things, they're just a big mouth. They write checks they can't cash like Russia. And they're afraid of is that these rebels said they're going to go from Syria after they conquer Syria, which it looks like they've got every possibility of doing. There's no resistance basically anymore. They are going to go to Iraq. Who's going to help Iraq? Kuwait. Nobody's going to help Iraq. These people can't stand Iraq. And then they'll refortify Iraq and Syria, and then they'll go after Iran. And Turkey don't like Iran very much. They're not friends. Okay, Turkey is helping the rebels. But there's a lot of division as well. Turkey doesn't like the Kurds. He's happy to bomb them. Turkey wants to create a buffer zone between Syria and Turkey. In other words, confiscate land basically, but not really confiscated, but de facto confiscated, but de jure not confiscated. And keep the Kurds away from Turkey because he's afraid the Kurds in Syria will unite with the Kurds in Turkey and overthrow him. Hint, that might happen. Okay? That could happen. But that's a down the road, so let's not go off on that one. He's talking 15 miles. He's not worried about missile fire and stuff like that. He's worried about them, doing a land crossing into his country. So that's one of the goals he wants. Every place Syria and Turkey have a border, he wants a 15-mile strip, which he'll patrol with his military. He'll fence it, he'll put landmines up, trenches, who knows what. I mean, landmines would be a big thing with him, and he might go with electrified fences at some point, I don't know. But he's going to make sure they're not going to get in, and if they're going to start trying to get in, with landmines, that's a slow process, getting rid of the landmines, and, then he'd bomb them again, and then just replace the landmines, There's other ways he could secure the border, but landmines would give him a good sense of security. So, it would be drone patrol, probably, maybe aircraft or helicopter patrol, troops, it would work. Now, America likes the Kurds and wants to help the Kurds. The Kurds they have zero interest in fighting Israel. Zero. Okay? They have zero interest in, kill America, the big Satan, kill Israel, the little Satan. They have no interest in this. They say they're Muslims, but, I think they're like, that's just something they can say. Like Mormons go to the Mormon church and they get business connections that way, and then they don't pay attention to the Mormon doctrines and they call them Jack Mormons, And that's pretty much what the Kurds are with the Muslims. They're not fanatic with that, I think there's a chance, I wouldn't go further than that they could be lost tribes. But we'll know soon enough, I think. So anyway, America and Israel are definitely helping the rebels, along with Turkey. And Russia doesn't want any part of it, and Iran doesn't want it. Now, Iran's probably playing the I hope game. if the rebels do take over Syria and then they go to Iraq, it's again, will Iran try to help Iraq? Well, Iraq, they have to help because there's a land border with Iran. So if the rebels took over Iraq, then the chances of a ground incursion into Iran is very high. Plus, now they got money. They have the oil from Syria. Well, America's got claim on that. They're not giving that up. But Iraq's got oil, so they can go after the oil in Iraq. And then their lovely neighbor, Kuwait, with that horribly mean dictator, you know, they'll just sit there and say, why shouldn't we make a couple of $1 billion a year? Let's just go into Iraq. It'd be a 3-day, to Kuwait, it'd be like when Saddam Hussein went in, it'd be like a 2 or 3 day fight, right? And they got the oil in Kuwait. They'll take the emir and throw him off a roof or something like that. You know, he'll run away. He'll hide somewhere. I don't know where he'll go, but America probably. He ain't gonna come to Israel. So, you know, if America pulls out of the oil, which could happen, or if Trump's in office, it probably materialize more of a deal like, yeah, it's your oil, rebels that now own Syria, but you're going to have to give us a lease on it or something like that for 30 years. And so our oil companies can continue to pay for their mansions and their yachts, you know, and they'll probably agree to it, but they'll get some revenue out of it. And then with Iraq, they'll start becoming rich. Now, the time this is going to take, I don't think prophecy is going to allow for it, but Iran doesn't believe in the Bible and prophecy. So if they got Syria, then they got Iraq. There's a lot of things they can do. Jordan's got a lot of money. They can knock off Jordan, although that would be immensely more difficult than Kuwait. But it's doable. They might think they can knock off Saudi Arabia. I don't know what they think. Right now, they're fortifying their positions. One of the reasons they're fortifying their positions is they know Russia's bombing them, and there's not a lot they can do about that. And it's severely unlikely that America is going to sit there and tell their jets to blow the Russian jets out of the sky. So I believe they were told to hunker down, you know, and the bombing isn't going to be that effective. When they're on the road to take over another city, and they're on the highways with their armor and their trucks and supplies and communications and all this stuff, well, they can be attacked easily by Russia. So they're hunkering down. They don't want to give up what they lost. Now, this is likely going to mean that Russia's abandoning their port on the Mediterranean in Latakia, Syria, with the air base that's, I don't know, 2-3 kilometers away. They're probably not going to try to hold that because the amount of soldiers they'll need to hold it is massive. I mean, with all 900 tanks, you know, what are they going to, I mean, they're going to have to put, you know, 500, 1,000 soldiers isn't going to cut it. 5,000 soldiers with bunkers and a lot of tanks and mobile artillery and missile launchers and helicopter support and all that, that would help, but it would be a long drawn out battle, and you know, they're not going to do it. What if they get their hands on missiles and artillery, which they probably already have, and they just get, you know, I don't know, 25 miles or, well, probably 10 miles away, and they just start pounding the Navy base with artillery? What would happen? Well, the fuel would go, the buildings are above ground, they would go. The places where the ships tie up, the piers, if you will, they'll go. The ships in the harbor themselves that are moored up at the dock, they'll go. The roads will go, the radar will go, you know. What's left? So Putin's sitting there thinking it's not defendable. If he doesn't have control of Syria, he can't really defend it. You know, he'd have to try to create, you know, something like a 50, 60 mile perimeter away from the Navy base, and that would be a monumental task. It's not worth it. So nobody's helping Syria, so it's just going to be a brief period of time. I think once Russia gets out of there altogether, and I think Russia's going to try to take out as much military equipment as they can. But are the rebels going to let Russia, remember they killed a lot of the rebels already, so they're not, the rebels are, you know, bloodthirsty. They're rapists, they're baby murderers, they're torturers, they burn people alive, they drown them, they cut their throats with dull knives. These are the real sickos, okay? And what are they going to do? Make a deal with Russia? No. They're going to keep the pressure on Russia. They're not going to want to let Russia bring in big cargo planes for 3 or 4 weeks every day and offload tanks, armored personnel carriers, jeeps, trucks, electric generators, artillery pieces, missile pods, anything and everything. No. They're going to keep the pressure on Russia to get Russia to abandon the equipment. And then they're going to have that equipment. And that's the way it looks like it's playing out. So don't believe all this stuff. Russia did a brutal attack and this and that. Russia may do 2 or 3 more brutal attacks. They want to keep these rebels hunkered down until they can get the heck out of there. Russia's not looking to bring 100,000 troops in, you know, in 250 planes and 1,100 tanks and, you know, 400 or 500 armored personnel carriers and all this stuff with medical and food and uniforms and, you know, logistics and radar and Navy warships to help Syria when it's going to stretch them out too thin, and NATO could pounce on them in Europe and Mother Russia. Putin can't do it. The Americans knew this. I don't think Iran knew it. Russia knew it, but they can't do anything about it. If you're thinking China and North Korea are going to come over and help for Syria, think again. I don't even think they'll help when Iran goes. So we're talking about the prophecy against Elam in Jeremiah 49, which is Iran, Iraq, and Syria go. There's separate prophecies for Edom, which is Yemen, and Lebanon, and Gaza, Palestine, it's called, and Jordan, which is Ammon and Moab. Ammon doesn't show up in there. Saudi Arabia does. They seem to suffer too. So the year of recompenses is really taking hold. Now, it appears to me what Satan is doing, which is irrelevant, it's what God is doing that's important. What Satan is doing is likely has discussed with Bashar Assad because he's not got the guts to become a suicide jihadist and take his military and his country and just pit it against Israel the way Hamas and Lebanon and Yemen operate, okay? You don't want to do that. And that's why I think Satan's probably behind this, to get rid of them and put these rebels in, which are more bloodthirsty and hate Israel and they hate Christians. And Satan won't have any trouble persuading them to go aggressive against Israel. So that would be your Zechariah 12. So we're prepping ourselves into Zechariah 12 is what I see. When I mean, God is, not us. Okay? That's what I'm seeing. The siege in Zechariah 12, where the two witnesses burn them up on the right and the left. Now, we're getting to the close of the year of recompenses, the beginning of redemption. I don't have a precise date, but we're getting very, very close. It could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 months. It's not going to be a year for sure. It may be more than 2 months. I'm not sure. We're not told that. So let me look at the chat and see if we got any garbage to throw out here. Official news channels have all this information plain as day. They do not. You're lying. What else does he say? And people think he's going to save them. I don't know who you're talking about. Maybe he's talking about Trump or something. I don't know what he's talking about. I think it's a nasty post, so pointed at me. Syria has oil and Iraq has oil. American oil companies in the oil is in northeast Syria, where America has several bases protecting the oil, and American oil companies that are profiteering off the oil. That's what that's all about. Okay. So what happens next? Russia's going to pull out. They're not going to bring 100,000 or 180,000 soldiers in there. China and North Korea aren't going to go. And Assad's going to be, the way it puts it, look, Bashar Assad, I'm sorry, I can't help you right now, but stay here with me in Russia. I'll give you a villa. He might have himself a nice 200-acre estate someplace in Russia by mountains and a lake and rivers. I don't know. And you could stay here for as long as you want, But that could be, these are the details that we're not going to get. But the mainstream media is not giving you this picture. How many of you heard that November 30th that Bashar Assad went to Russia with his family? Well, if you read the Arab media, you probably picked it up. How many of you read the Arab media? So that's the state of the art there. The rebels are going to hunker down, hold their territory, which is what Putin wants them to do. And the chance, and now Putin could always change his mind, chances are he's going to pull out. Israel's going to make no deal with Bashar Assad. Now let's switch to Trump. Trump tells Hamas, you better return the hostages and make a ceasefire before January 20th or when he's inaugurated, or there's going to be hell to pay. And they counter-threatened him. Now, you got to understand a couple of things. Hamas may have every intention of keeping whatever hostages are still alive for years, never returning them, raping them, torturing them, using them as slave labor. They distributed the hostages to people to put in their houses. Now, I don't know where the hostages are. I'm rather certain that Netanyahu doesn't know where they are either, or he would storm the Bastille and get them. Okay? I don't think anybody knows where they are except these characters that run it. And we don't know how many there are. There could be 10 or 5 or none or 50. I don't know. I'm not sure anybody knows. They won't give us a list. They won't let the Red Cross speak or examine the hostages. They won't show us proof of life. They won't do anything. And they tell us that their idea of a ceasefire is that we leave Gaza 100%, including the Rafah crossing. Well, just to make a statement of, well, that's not fair. America is hunkered down and dug in military installations by the Rafah crossing. They ain't leaving. Okay? That's where the weapons were smuggled in. And yes, Egypt had to be compliant. There were too many truckloads, thousands of truckloads over the years. They knew what was going on. So that ain't going to change. And Israel is very far from pulling all their military. I don't know, the internet clicked out for some reason. We're back. Israel wants to keep troops in Gaza to enforce the ceasefire like we're doing in Lebanon. And go for 60 days. Now, this gives the troops a chance to rest, go home with their families, Israeli troops, replenish and repair equipment, get more supplies. We make a lot. We have a lot of weapons factories here that make weapons, so they can make more weapons. And this would be, something Hamas doesn't want. But they may be scared of Trump, but not so much if they counter-threaten Trump. Now, all these scenarios with what's going on in Syria with the backing of Turkey, a NATO member, America, and Israel, and you can include the UK in that. The UK, US, and Israel attacks on Yemen, many attacks. Israel did 2 big ones. America and UK must have done 40 or 50 smaller attacks, or not so small. They don't want to leave Israel in peace. That's their goal. They were counting on Syria being the next front to really open up at Israel, like Lebanon. And thus that is called the war of attrition. They wore us down with Gaza, they wear us down with Lebanon, then they would wear us down with Syria. They can't wear us down with Kuwait, with Yemen. That's not working. And since the ceasefire, Yemen's been rather quiet, as well as Iraq. Every now and then they take a pot shot at us, and 99% of the time it gets shot down, and 99.8% of the time. Yemen's still trying to attack ships and stuff like that, so they're going to go. You don't get away with closing the Red Sea and attacking ships from 80 or 90 different countries because they had some shipments to or from Israel, and that's what Yemen's trying to do, and that's going to blow up in their face eventually. So right now it's a good thing for Israel in Syria, but it will turn into a bad thing eventually. But the intense intensity of this conquest of Syria is absolutely amazingly quick, miraculously just about. And the it's just amazing. So all the pieces are falling together. You know, Iran is eventually going to pull their soldiers out of Syria. We don't need Bashar Assad for that. Either they're going to pour the soldiers in to try to overcome the rebels, or they're going to pull away. Some of the Iranian militia groups are coming in from Iraq, but these are the Iranian-backed militias, not regular army of Iran. They're coming in small groups, and they've accumulated to a few hundred or even 1,000 or something. It's not going to be that consequential. They're not coming with tanks and artillery and foot soldiers with a rifle. Whoop-de-doo. What do you do? And there's not that many of them. If they try to come with a convoy with heavy equipment and stuff, they'll get somebody will blow them up. Turkey, America, or Israel. So they're not going to do that. Coming in small groups of, terrorists, nobody's going to start getting excited about that, apparently. So that's their approach, but it's not going to do much good. So the tide is sort of turning with Israel. Now, I'm not, okay, yesterday the headlines, ceasefire broken with Lebanon. A couple of wahoos, members of Hezbollah, went in Lebanon and got their hands on a mortar. A mortar. And they fired 2 mortar shells at Israel, which apparently our red alert radar picked it up. So then Israel declared it a violation of the ceasefire, and they attacked a massive amount of targets in Lebanon. So what this is really is Israel doesn't get fired upon with rockets and drones and missiles. Yet they get to bomb Lebanon every time a Hezbollah suspect goes near something that looks like a Hezbollah military installation or warehouse or stronghold or storage facility or something like that. They blow it up. So we get to keep blowing up targets in Lebanon, and they don't launch against us. Nobody's doing anything about monitoring or controlling Lebanon except Israel. And it'll probably stay that way. And of course, when the 60 days is up, theoretically, Trump would be sworn in. Now let's talk about what the heck is Trump going to do to make good on his threat with Hamas. Really, let's dissect this. He said that he will do to them, it'll be worse for them than the worst thing America ever did to any other country in the world. Well, in World War II, they bombed Dresden and Hamburg with aerial bombs so badly. There was the oxygen in the air was burning up, and the people down there were choking out on the ground because they had no air to breathe. And then look what they did to Tokyo, Nagasaki, and Hiroshima. They didn't use, what do they call them, hydrogen bombs. They used incendiary bombs just like they did in Hamburg, in Germany. And the Japanese had a lot of paper and wood houses, and it all burned up. And they destroyed 6 digits, over 100,000 people with this. And he's saying it'll be worse. What's he going to do? Take 150 American jets and have them bomb Gaza and kill 2 million civilians? You think Trump's got the stones to do something like that? I don't. He won't. He's not going to do that. What the heck is he going to do? Put sanctions on Gaza? That's a joke. Cut off the humanitarian aid going to Gaza and so the civilians starve to death? Gee, I don't think he's going to do that either. What's he going to do? Ask yourself, what could he possibly do to them? Could he cut their phones? Yeah. Could he cut their internet? Yeah. Could he cut their water? No. No. That's not going to happen. Could he starve them out? I don't think so. Could he send 3,000 or 5,000 special forces or recon marines or rangers trained in urban combat to go help Israel rout them all out? Yep. Would he be likely to do something like that? I think he might try it and then give up. That could be something he might try to do, but it ain't to get the hostages back. And it's basically house to house fighting, and that means casualties. So I think that's an unlikely occurrence, but it's a possible. I wouldn't rule it out. What can Trump do? Who gives Hamas the money, the equipment, the training, the support, the military advisors, but Iran? Trump basically tells Iran, you created Gaza, get them to sign a ceasefire and return the hostages immediately, or you're on our hit parade. Iran will not believe it, and Iran won't do anything. They'll say they're on their own, and then Trump does something to Iran violently with the military, bomb something. That's about all he can do is cut the head off the snake. And with Yemen, oh, could you imagine what he'll do to Yemen? I think Yemen is in for about 1,500 heavy bombs from Trump till they get the message to stop interfering with the shipping and trying to hit Israel with missiles. I would say at 1,500 bombs, missiles, and suicide drones, they'll get the idea. It might take 3,000, but the idea will occur to them that they better knock it off. But they are psychotic, and we know Edom will be destroyed, and that might be how it happens. It might be 20,000 bombs. Yeah, I think once you get to a few thousand bombs, I mean, it depends what Trump's going to hit. First the radar, the air defenses, then you start dismantling the military, you start hitting all their bases, the Yemen regular army and the Houthi army. You hit their ports and piers, you shut their economy down. You hit their banks, you hit their government buildings, you hit the mosques, you hit. And by the time you've done thousands of attacks, you could have destroyed the infrastructure. Or he'd probably get the infrastructure eventually. He'd get frustrated and hit the electricity, and then the airports, and then the railroad lines, and just keep hitting stuff. And then the people would be, Yemen would be inhabitable. I don't think he needs to do a ground invasion. If you think Trump's going to make it, I mean, if Trump's going to get there on January 20th, he ain't going to put up with Yemen interdicting shipping all over the Red Sea. Forget about that. He's going to give them one warning, and if that doesn't happen, then that's the end of them. Now, have you heard about an assassination attempt against Trump weeks ago that was backed by the Iranians? Okay. Do you think Trump is likely to just let that one go and forget about it? I doubt that. He's got an axe to grind with Iran, and he will grind his axe unless Iran behaves. Now, is it likely that Iran will behave? Tell Hamas, well, give up the hostages, make some kind of deal with Israel, and let's see if we can stay around to kill again another day. Well, so we're watching this whole thing. We know the end from Jeremiah 49, and we just got to watch this thing move ahead. And all roads are leading to Zechariah 12 now. Because these lunatics, when they take over Syria, which it could be in a few days, they're not going to immediately turn around and say, oh, let's go storm Israel. They'll wait. Remember I told you in Malachi 3, we see a temple and we see Elijah training the Levites to make the offerings acceptable unto the Lord. And it appears that the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man is in Malachi 4, which is after Malachi 3. So we could deduct that Malachi 3 happens first. And I myself cannot visualize the temple, which, as I've taught, 20 times, it comes down from heaven, based on Ezekiel 37, the last 3 verses. And it says the tabernacle too, which takes us to 2 Maccabees 2, chapter 2. So it looks like to me that these things are not going to be happening at a time when missiles and suicide drones and rockets are flying all around Israel. That doesn't add up. So the ceasefires before the siege against Israel in Zechariah 12, where we're surrounded, and that's where we're headed. Zechariah 12. We've seen it now. Now, you know, when you put this into your soup and you cook your soup here, your prophecy soup, you got to understand that the Hezbollah is still going to be in Lebanon the way it looks now, and still going to be in Gaza. The Yemen and the Houthis, I don't know. And there's still going to be factions in that hate us and want to kill us in Syria and likely Iraq and Jordan. And it's possible that Syria and Iraq and Iran get obliterated before the Zechariah 12 attack. Iran is not on our borders, neither is Iraq, but Syria is. So prophecy gives us the overview, but you don't get the exact details. You don't get the exact timeline. You can sequence events like the temple in Malachi 3 with Elijah training the Levites is preceding the appearing of the Son and the Son of Man, which is the start of redemption. And you can put that together that it happens first. How long it takes Elijah to train the Levites, you got me. I don't know. I don't know what kind of an anointing is going to be given, so I can't tell you. So that's the state of the art. What's going on with Russia and Ukraine? It's the same old, same old. Ukraine makes progress, Russia makes progress, back and forth, back and forth. More weapons to Ukraine, Putin pulling his hair out, threatening everybody. Putin's threatening everybody. I think the only thing Putin didn't threaten yet is Disneyland. I mean, pretty soon we'll hear a threat. I'm going to blow up Disneyland with all the people in it. Mickey Mouse dies. I haven't, I mean, he's threatening everybody. He's going a little cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. Where's he going to run away from when the time comes? He ain't going to Syria. He ain't going to Iran, China, I guess. Where else is he going to go? Is Putin hanging on for Trump? Well, maybe, because Trump wants a ceasefire with Ukraine. He wants it stopped. And, I don't know. I don't know how Putin is really going to react to Trump. Trump is not going to say, Vladimir, come to Mar-a-Lago. We'll have a feast. My friends from Epstein Island will be there. He's not going to say that. He's going to say, listen, you want to work with me? I'll be fair to you, but you got to, do things my way. Putin might do that. As long as Putin submits to Trump, Trump will use him like a money crank. Trump's threatening BRICS. I mean, he's going to throw horrendous sanctions on the members of BRICS if they cooperate with not buying and selling, by oil and natural gas sales not being used in the dollar. I got to check an email. It's from a subscriber. Sometime this might be good. Let me read it. Well, it was a well thought letter. It's not that far from what I was saying, that he'll hold Iran responsible and do things to Iran. Exactly what he'll do, I don't know. Sanctions would be, of course, something he would do. But to make the sanctions really work, what Trump needs to do is take an aircraft carrier group or two with about 8 or 10 warships, destroyers, missile cruisers, and submarines that won't disclose, and tell Iran every ship going in and out of Iran that contains any oil and natural gas, or looks like it might, in other words, tanker ships, needs to be searched, and we need a manifest, and we need to verify where it's going or it ain't leaving. So basically, Trump is saying, I control the Persian Gulf. I control it now, not the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf. And he'll call Iran's bluff. They won't do a thing about it. And then, you see, you're dealing with psychotic Iran. They lie and they lie and they lie, and then they believe their lies and they try to act on them, and then they were whoops, like some weeks ago. Oh heck, we got no radar now. What the heck do we do? We're defenseless. We can't guide our missiles. Oh man, what do we do now? We'll bluff. We'll lie. But Trump would have to take the Navy and tell the Navy, if they try to run your line and not stop their ship, you're authorized to fire on the ship. And after you hit the ship, rescue the crew, because these are civilian vessels. If they go in lifeboats, pick them up, search them, give them blankets, give them a hot shower, give them tea and coffee, that kind of thing. Or Iran doesn't make it till then. Iran says, we don't want to be here for Trump. And they decide they want to push a big war right now, but I don't see how they're going to do it. This is the turning point where Israel starts to get ahead. Israel's going to have some peace. I've talked about this over the last many months. Have some peace for a while. Elijah will come, start working. The Muslim states are going to see this. They're going to freak out. They're going to say, this is the Dajjal. Elijah's the Dajjal, the false Messiah. He's going to tell the Israelites to kill all the Muslims, take the land, get rid of the mosques. Much of this will be true, but not exactly the way they're going to depict it at all. They're going to get wiped out when they try to wipe out Israel. And so I would think we need this break for Israel to get their act together with God, which Elijah's going to do. Elijah restores all things, and he's got to start someplace. Where's he going to start? He's going to start with the Levite and the Kohanim. The Kohanim are also Levites, but they're what's called in English Bibles the priests. And then when the offerings are acceptable unto the Lord, the glory of God of Israel will appear suddenly at his temple. That's in Malachi 3. So now the whole cast of characters for churchianity is also going to be in place. What cast of characters are you talking about, Moshe? Well, let's count them down. Apostle John, the other witness, he appears in Zechariah 12:6, burning up the enemies surrounding Israel and the siege, right along with Elijah. So they're there, and now we have the glory of God of Israel inside the temple. So we put the picture together. What do we got? In the eyes of churchianity, this is what they're going to see. And I'm being serious. Okay, and if I don't teach you this stuff, nobody will. Who else teaches like me? I wish there was 10,000 that do. Really, the world wouldn't be this way. But they're not. What are the church going to say? Well, whoever this is in Israel is trying to put us under the law again, under the bondage of the law. They're teaching the Levites again. Who the heck are the Levites? We're the church. We're going to reign over them with the rod of Christ. It doesn't say that. It says Christ will reign over the heathen, the nations, the goyim with the rod of iron, not the Jews with them. They're going to go up to heaven. Okay, let's break that down. Okay, they're going to go up on their pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, rapture to heaven, right? Which is nonsense. They're going to go up there, and what's to go up to heaven? They need a spiritual body, right? Okay, so they're going to get a spiritual body. They're going to go up to heaven, celebrate the wedding feast of the Lamb in heaven, not in New Jerusalem, in heaven, which is not scriptural, for 3.5 or 7 years, or whatever concoction of their narrative they particularly follow, and then come down to earth as gods, right? And reign over Israel with Yeshua. That's what they believe. So God's chosen people are a bunch of punks under the church. Am I wrong? Do you have scriptures to show me I'm wrong? Oh, we're not Israel, but we stand next to Israel. That's the church party line. What did Yeshua say? Faith without works is dead. What do they say? All you got to do is know who Yeshua is. What did Yeshua say? Even the demons fear God. And, they were demons. The place where he threw them out of the guy and they went into the pigs and they said to him, what they call him? They said, Son of God, what are you here for? To torment us before the time? They knew who he was. They knew him. They used to be in heaven. Yeshua was in heaven previous to coming to earth. They knew who he was. They see the spiritual thing. They know you have the Holy Spirit in you. They know what it is, what it looks like, how it appears. They know who Elijah is. They know who Apostle John is. From heaven. So, what are they going to do? Remember, Yeshua said, no one goes up to heaven except the one that comes down from heaven. Well, Yeshua went up on a cloud to heaven, didn't he? How did the two witnesses go up? They rise from the dead, just like Yeshua who came down from heaven. They rise from the dead, and they go up on a cloud to heaven. Read Zechariah 4:14, the last verse. Who are these candlesticks and olive trees? It says in the Hebrew, every Hebrew Bible going back to 900 AD, it says, Shtaim B'nai Yitzhar. Shtaim means two, B'nai means sons, plural. Yitzhar means clarified olive oil, which is a kind of a codified way of, not codified, a sort of discreetly hidden way of saying anointed. These are the two anointed sons standing next to the Lord of the whole earth, which would be Jehovah. God has more sons than Yeshua. Read that. Read Job 1:6. I'll read it to you. You listen to the church and you get all messed up. Job 1:6. They don't agree with the Bible. They dispute the Bible probably in 500 places. Now there was a day when the sons, plural, of Elohim, God, came to present themselves before the Lord, before Jehovah, and Satan came also among them. You don't have to teach you this stuff. Why do you go there? You're afraid of losing your friends, your family, so instead you sacrifice true doctrine and you go there? How stupid that is. If you reject knowledge, Yeshua said he'll reject you, and you keep doing it. So what's more important to you? Your friends and your family and your connections in life and your social life, or spending eternity with Father God, Jehovah, and Yeshua in heaven. You know, the time in heaven and the time in the lake of fire is over 1,000,000,000 years. It's an infinite amount of time. There is no more time, basically, as we know it. Why do you do this? Why do you believe you could change the Sabbath to Sunday? It says in the Ten Commandments, you can't murder, you can't commit adultery, you can't set other gods before you. Will you set other gods before you knowingly? Like put the Buddha up in your house and rub his belly for good luck before you go out? No, you wouldn't do that. Would you take that Kali statue of a woman with 8 arms and pray to it before you go to work in the morning? No, you wouldn't do that. Would you go up in the altar in the church and kneel down in front of 2 pieces of wood shaped like this and cry? That you would do. That's wrong. They never did that in the Bible. That too is idolatry. But you don't know that. Most of you that do it really didn't know it. Okay. I did it many, many years ago. I didn't know it. All right. But, you know, putting up a statue of some idol and praying to it or giving it offerings or rubbing Buddha's belly or something like that, you'd never do that. Right? Okay. God said on the 7th day he rested. You can't change that day. It's never going to change that he rested on the 7th day. In Hebrew, the 7th day starts Friday at dusk and goes to Saturday at dusk. The Hebrew Bible precedes churchianity by many centuries. After Yeshua rose from the dead, there was no churchianity for 300 or 350 years. And then this idiot Constantine started it. It was an apostate church that rather soon evolved into the Catholic Church with their crusades, forced conversions, torturing. And then when they started losing control, they started the Reformed churches. It's them. So why would you think you could move the Sabbath, which is a day you're supposed to make holy and sanctified, written in the Word of God under the 10 Commandments, and not work and rest? Yet they change it to Sunday. Now, if you were going to worship the sun god and trick people into worshiping the sun god, do you think it would be a good idea to move the Sabbath to a day you called Sun Day? Or how about Sun God Day? Instead of the Lord's Day, which is Sabbath, which is holy unto him. And you put up with it. You sit there. You don't care. You don't care. How could all these people be wrong? Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. Straight and narrow is the path, and few find it. You think what I'm telling you is fiction, right? It's in your Bible. But you don't study your Bible. You trust your churches to teach you stuff. For 2 Corinthians 11:4, if he that cometh preacheth another Jesus whom we have not preached. Yeah, that's possible, like the December 25th one that moved the Sabbath. What's the birthday of Tammuz, December 25th? Who's Tammuz? The sun god. Yes, the sun god. Birthday, December 25th. And they worship on Sun Day. Why don't we just say Sun God Day? Another Jesus whom we have not preached. Or if you receive another spirit which you have not received, or another gospel which you have not accepted, you might bear with him. That's what you're doing when you're going to the church. You're trying to serve God, but you're putting up with all this crap they throw at you. You're putting up with it. It's another gospel. It's another Jesus. And you put up with it. Why? You think God's going to just say, well, I'm going to break my word and bring you up to heaven anyway? Why would God do that? He would never do that. He would make God a liar. You can't do what you're doing. Why do you try it? Because they got a building? Or you don't want to lose your friends and family? Or maybe you're not the elect and you don't know any better. Many are called, but a few are chosen. Maybe the churches are just preaching to the called, not the chosen. Satan's a big schmuck anyway. But I think there are some chosen among them, and they got to come out from among them and touch not the unclean thing. That's an unclean thing. I'd no sooner step into one of those churches than I would go to a house of prostitution or an opium den or Epstein's Island. Do you think it's not as bad as Epstein's Island, these churches? I got news for you, they are. They're just as bad as murder. That's breaking the Ten Commandments, isn't it? Worshipping another God. That's what they do at Epstein's Islands. What do you do when you start playing with December 25th Jesus and changing the Sabbath to Sun God Day? What do you think you're doing? Anything different than what they were doing at Epstein Island? Oh, the sexual stuff's out of it. So what? So what? Hope I could get some of you jolted out of these places. Just because everybody does it doesn't mean it's right. Guy said to me, who do I vote for? I stopped voting decades ago. I wouldn't vote for any of these people. Then I become a partaker in the evil deeds they do. You want that? Vote. I don't want that. You're just a sojourner, a traveler passing through these countries. That's not your home. Restored Israel is your home. So I want to talk about the firmament now. And I'm going to correct a couple of things that I said before about the firmament that have nothing to do with prophecy. They're just technical things. Let's read Job 37:18. Job. Well, I was having trouble reading that. Please pray for my eyes and my vision to get better. Job, please, seriously. Job 37:18. Sometimes I worry about my vision, but I actually don't think it's declining, but sometimes I do. I don't know. Pray my vision improves, please. 37:18. Hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong? Now, what's the word for the sky? 78:34 in Hebrew. Shachak. Let's see what Strong's uses for English for this. It can mean the sky, heaven, cloud. Spread out the sky, which is strong. Now, and as a molten looking glass. See, this is contradictory to science. So let's look up the word strong. Is it koyak? Kazakh. Yeah, that's like the Yiddish koyak. It means strong or strength. as a molten, let's look up molten 3332 Yitzhak. It means like pour. I think molten is an implication. Melted, poured out, melted. So it's strong, poured out, melted, and it's called a looking glass. So are the clouds strong? No, the birds will fly through them, airplanes fly through them. They're not. Is the general atmosphere, no clouds up there, strong? No. So what are we talking about here that's strong? Could it be the firmament? And it looks like a molten looking glass. Hint coming. Spoiler alert. Sea of glass. Sea of glass. You've read that. Let's keep going. That was pretty good. Spoiler alert. I like that. I'll have to use that again. Ezekiel 1:22. And the likeness of the firmament upon the heads of the living creature was as the color of terrible crystal, sea of glass, stretched forth over their heads above. Let's go back a verse or two. Let's go up to this is a vision that Ezekiel had, and let me go. I have to go all the way up here, I think. All right. They call this an epiphany in the seminaries. It's not a biblical word. We'll go to Ezekiel 1:1. Now it came to pass in the 30th year, in the 4th month, the 5th day of the month. This is the years of captivity in Babylon. Was among the captives by the river Kabar, that's in Babylon, that the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiakim captivity, the word of the Lord came expressly unto Ezekiel, the priest. So he was a Kohanim, a priest, right? Descendant of Aaron, a Levite that's a descendant of Aaron is a Kohanim. The son of Buzi in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Kabar, and the hand of Jehovah was there upon him. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire, also out of the midst thereof, the likeness of the 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, and every one had 4 faces, and every one had 4 wings. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot. And they sparkled like the color of burning brass. And they had the hands of a man under their wings, on their 4 sides. And they four had their faces and their wings. Their wings were joined one to another, and they turned not when they went. They went every one straight forward. As for the likeness of their faces, they four had the face of a man and the face of a lion on the right side, and they four had the face of an ox on the left, and they four also had the face of an eagle. Thus were the faces, and their wings were stretched upward. Two wings of every one were joined one to another, and two covered and their bodies. And they went every one straight forward, whither the Spirit was to go. They went, and they turned not when they went. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire. And like the appearance of the lamps, it went up and down among the living creatures. And the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. And the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. That's fast. Lightning goes pretty fast. What does my lightning go, like Mach 10,000 or something? I don't know. You know, pretty fast. Light goes 250,000 miles a second, I think. So it's fast. Now, as I beheld the living creatures, now I don't know if that's a real figure. That's what science tells you. Who the heck knows? Now, as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel was upon the earth by the living creatures with his four faces. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of a beryl, and they four had one likeness. And their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. That's like a gyroscope, a wheel in a wheel. And when they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. As for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. And when the living creatures went, now he calls them creatures. Let's see. It's yeah. I mean, it's kai an animal, a creature or something. Right? When the living creatures went, the wheels went by them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Whithersoever the Spirit was to go, they went thither, was the Spirit to go. And the wheels were lifted up over against them, for the Spirit of the living creature were the wheels. When those went, these went, and when those stood, these stood. And when those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up over against them, for the Spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. So his spirit is in the wheels. And the likeness of the firmament upon the head, the likeness of the firmament upon the heads of the living creatures was as the color of the terrible crystal stretched forth over their heads. And under the firmament were their wings, straight the one towards the other. Every one had two, which covered on this side, and every one had two, which covered on that side, their bodies. And when they went, I heard the noise of their wings, like the noise of great waters, as the voice of the Almighty, the voice of speech, as the noise of the host When they stood, they let down their wings. And there was a voice from the firmament that was over their heads when they stood and had let down their wings. And above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone, and upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness of the appearance of a man above it. And I saw the color of amber as the appearance of fire, and about within it, from the appearance of his loins even upward, and from the appearance of his loins even downward. I saw as it were the appearance of fire, and it had brightness round about, as the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud. That's the rainbow. In the day of rain, so was the appearance of the brightness round about. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. And when I saw it, I fell upon my face, and I heard a voice of one that spake. Okay, this is not Jehovah, this is the glory of God of Israel. This is the angel that God put his name in Exodus 23, verse 20. This is Michael. He has a throne, and there's a firmament over there, incorporated into the throne, and he's over the firmament. So there's a separation, this terrible crystal thing, this separation between the beast and him and anyone else that's below his throne. And you read about this leaving the next temple in Ezekiel, basically chapters 10 and 11, when we reach the falling away, the day of the Lord. So it's kind of good that we read this, because the glory of God of Israel will be with us soon in the next temple. Read Malachi 3 at the beginning. He comes suddenly to his temple. And you'll be seeing this. And I expect we'll be in awe, like, but you're not going to be, running away and hiding on the rocks, It'll just be something that you've never ever seen before. And it'll be amazing. You think that'll bolster your faith? Of course it will. Okay, let's keep going. Why are we doing this? It just realized to me, because time is so short for this to happen. We needed to do this. Revelation 4:6. The church is completely unprepared for this. Anything to do with the glory of God of Israel, they don't know what the heck's going on. Let alone this throne, they don't know what's up and what's down. And before the throne there was a sea of glass, like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne and round about the throne were four beasts, full of eyes before and behind. And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast was like a calf. That could be the ox, right? Because we're in Greek now, so it could be the ox. And the third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. And the four beasts had each of them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, holy, Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. And when these beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever, the 24 of the elders fell down before him that sat on the throne, and worship him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne. Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure. Okay. See, so the glory of God of Israel has a throne because the name Jehovah is in him. And it has some very similar things to the real, well, no, they're both real, they're a big throne up in heaven. So there's a sea of glass under God. So that's the separation between us and God. And it's a transparent, like crystal. That's your firmament. The sea of glass is the firmament. We'll keep going. Ezekiel 24, I think, 9. Ezekiel 24, 9. Therefore, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, woe to the bloody city, I will even make the pile of fire great. Or did I get the wrong? I got the wrong verse. No. How did I do this? I messed up. I don't know how that got in there. Let me check my notes. Exodus 24:10. You got to pray for my eyes, guys. Exodus 24:10. Sorry. I was confusing it with Ezekiel. And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work, like pavement, paved, right, of a sapphire stone, and as it were, the body of heaven in his clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel, he laid not his hand. Also they saw Elohim, and did eat and drink. And the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me unto the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone, and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. Those are the same commandments the church breaks, by the way. 10 commandments. Okay, let's see if I have another one, I think. Revelation 15:2. And I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of God. So they're on the other side. They're standing on it, so they're on the heaven side of the sea of glass. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll come back, and I'm going to interpret the word for the Shemaim, where the birds and the airplanes fly the sky. I'm going to interpret that word for you. I'll break it down, and you're going to be pretty impressed with that, I think. yet, but soon. Shemaim is the Hebrew word that's used in the Bible. It's not a modern Hebrew thing, and it means the sky where the birds and planes and the rockets and the missiles and the drones go. You got it? Okay. So we'll break this down. Give me a minute. I want to read my notes. Okay, Shemaim. Mime is the word for water. Water. Mime. Okay. And the Shemaim, that Esh sound, comes from fire. Esh. So it appears maybe the root is fire. So it's fire and water. And that's the sky. God's a consuming fire. And on the other side of the firmament, this is confusing. How could the sea of glass be the firmament when on the other side of it he keeps the water? That's not right either, is it? No. No. Where would the water be? Oh, it's called the sea of glass. Maybe that's it. I don't know. See, I don't have everything on this, but one decent way of looking at it is the sea of glass is the firmament. It's round. God says he has his feet on the circle of the earth. See, that's probably the sea of glass. So how could the water be on the other side of it if it goes up to heaven unless there's water in heaven? I don't know. Yeah, I can't give you everything on this. I don't know. But here's some things we get. New Jerusalem is 1,500 miles high, as best we interpret from Revelation. So the firmament would have to be more than 1,500 miles high. I was thinking it was about 100,000 feet. No, I don't think so. Unless it's maybe the firmament is not the sea of glass, but I don't think we can make a doctrine for that. So the firmament would have to be higher than New Jerusalem, otherwise New Jerusalem would be sticking into heaven and going through the sea of glass, and that makes not a lot of sense. Now, this is going to be hard for some of you guys, okay? But here you go. The angels stand on the four corners of the earth. Well, it can't be a sphere. What corners? Right? God says the earth is immovable, so it's not a spinning ball according to the Bible. You know, and it would be square or rectangular, probably square. But four corners would appear on a rectangle, and they would appear on a square. They would not appear on a triangle or a hexagon or anything like that. Okay, so then it goes like this. Does it go under the earth as well? We're not told, but likely, but I don't know. Probably, but I don't. People can take the rays of the sun. I studied this. Oh, it must be 6, 8 years ago or more. They can tell by the movement of the sun and that the Earth and the Moon are about 3,000 miles up. That's what they come up with. Okay. You could study this if you want. You know. Now, other things people say, if the Earth was a sphere, the oceans would be flowing off onto land. Think about it. You know, you wouldn't be able to see ships at sea like 25 miles away because of the curvature. And you could see ships and land 25 miles away. I've been on cruise ships. You could see it. I mean, if it's clear outside the day and you don't have overcast, you can see about that far. But remember, you're seeing a rather large object, land mass, but you wouldn't if it was curved, because you would be just seeing off into space. You wouldn't be seeing the Earth because of the curvature. They've worked all this out. So if you go with the sun and the moon at 3,000 miles, or approximately, some people go 3,300, some go 3,150. Yeah, they're all over the place. It's about 3,000, though. They all seem to stick close to that. The that leaves room for it's 3,000 miles, so that leaves room for, I said, 3,000 miles high, I believe they're saying. So that leaves room for the New Jerusalem to be in there, and it may be slightly over that, you know. But we don't know everything. I know twinkle, twinkle, little stars. The stars shine and they twinkle because you're seeing through the firmament in the water, and it looks like you're looking at it through a glass of water. Okay? And that's how I'm interpreting it anyway. But you don't get that with the sun and the moon. You don't get that twinkle, twinkle, little star effect when you look at the moon because it's below the water. I'm I'm really here to teach the prophecies of Israel and related Bible stuff, of course, to Israel. I'm not a physicist or anything like that, so I'm not the perfect guy to teach this stuff. But, they're, you know, that's what I've kind of learned. Um, I'm thinking. So not only do we need to get ready for Elijah and Apostle John and the next temple, we need to get ready for the glory God of Israel and this type of throne with the beasts. Yes, you do. Of course, where the glory of God of Israel is, his throne is. Okay. That you got to get ready for. Not that there's a lot you got to do, but I mean, you should be ready that when it comes, uh, you don't freak out. So the churchianity people would be likely to say, this is not Elijah, this is not Apostle John, this is not the glory of God of Israel, this must be Satan, and this must be the beast and the false prophet, and they're trying to put us under bondage of the law again. Even though they're teaching Yeshua, even though they're doing miracles. And that is where the churches are stuck right now. They're convinced that the law is dead and done away with. But what did Yeshua say? Think not that I came to destroy the law, nor the prophets, because I came to fulfill. For as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. But how dare them to say the law is done away with? But they do. And people put up with it, even though the Bible says no. So they go with the church, not the Bible. Does that mean they're believers? No, it means they're heathen. Without God. Unless you think God is very accepting of people that preach another Jesus, the December 25th sun god Tammuz guy, and change his Sabbath and wipe the feet on the law, if you think that's okay, I don't know what to tell you. I don't have any help for you. All I could do is, do what I'm doing. I can't go further than that. It's up to you. I got a letter from a subscriber. Let me see if we got a prayer request. Hold on. Um, yeah, let's not use PayPal yet. I'm still trying to see where they're at. I can use it, but it's just I gotta send them something, and I gotta get to something to send them, and I haven't received it yet. That's all it really is. So if you can, please hold off until I get it resolved with them. And I'm not really sure there's a major problem, but I just get a little antsy with these people. So prayer would be helpful too. And let me think. What else? I guess that's what I've got for today. So just let's just see what's going on. But this thing in Syria is just so astounding. I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. And it sure looks like the rebels, I can't give you a guarantee, but it looks like the rebels are going to turn Damascus into a ruinous heap. And the enemies of Elam will ransack it and destroy it so that people have to leave and go all over the world and every nation. And that sure looks like the rebels will do it. And that's Iran, Iraq, and Syria. So that's a surprise. So as I've told you for years, with end times, be ready for surprises and unexpected twists and turns. And this is certainly an unexpected twist and turn. But Jehovah knows everything. And all things work to good for those who love the Lord. So please pray that the Lord gives mercy to Israel. It says, I think it's in his Zechariah 1 or 2, it says, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies. Pray for that. That means the glory of God of Israel will be back in Israel. That's what he's telling us there. He says, I have returned because he put his name in this angel, and his name is Jehovah. So the angel could do things instead in the place of Jehovah, like receive offerings and stuff like that. But he's not Jehovah. He's under the guidance and control of Jehovah. Okay. So I do appreciate the prayers, and it keeps us going, I guess. And I'm quite sure we're getting really close to redemption, but we need to see the offer. I believe in the sequencing, we need to see Elijah start working with the Levites in the temple. Then the blessings of the Lord come on Israel. Then they'll come to do siege against us. The two witnesses will then burn them up. And then we'll take whatever more of the land we need to take back. And then will be the next great Exodus. And we'll be here in Israel, and it'll be redeemed and restored, and we'll have a ball. Okay, it'll be great for a long time, close to 70 years, and then you'll have the falling away. But you're going to have a long, good, great time. Many children, you'll have much wealth, much peace, happiness, joy, spiritual growth like you won't believe. It'll just be wonderful. And the two witnesses are going to be around for almost 70, well, probably just about 70 years from redemption. So a little bit less, maybe by a few days or something. So you'll have them, you'll have the glory of God of Israel. Do you think angels will be running around like crazy? I do. Not like crazy, but in abundance. I'd expect it. There'll be all kinds of prophecies, dreams, visions, like, oh, it'll be loads of it. You'll have everlasting life. The animals will be flourishing. There'll be a temple. It'll be wonderful. We'll be the head of all the nations. He'll destroy any nation that doesn't submit. It's just going to be a double portion. It's going to be better than they had with David or Solomon or anybody. It's just going to be wonderful. And God thinks it's wonderful too. So your future is bright, and it's not years away. I don't want to tell you exactly how long it is, because I could be off, but it's going to be weeks or months or something. It's not years, no way. So things are definitely getting interesting, and we may see some more interesting things regarding Jordan pop up, and Saudi and Yemen. Just it's end times. Put your seatbelt on and enjoy the ride. So pray for better videos. Pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, and joy. Pray for our finances. We could use that help. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and you got something out of this. So, is the sea of glass really a firmament? It looks like it, but I can't explain the water on the other side with the sea of glass. So, maybe I don't know what to say about that. Maybe it's like the firmament. It's not the firmament. I don't know. It doesn't appear that would make sense if it's the firmament because the water's on the other side. So I'll keep working on that. Pray we get the right answer for this, okay? Okay, so I'm out, and thank you.